And myself, probably about 2 years ago, had a lot more of a traumatic experience. It was a sort of a big, like, it's a weird way that it worked, and the way the criminals did this, they knew exactly how the sort of British court system and police system works. So it technically wasn't a robbery in terms of the police, but it was in between, like I can't remember the word, what they call it. It's like in between a fraud and it's like a burglary, but like a deception. And I had a lot of equipment stolen. That was probably about 2 years ago.
Okay.
So no, not the first time, but that all that equipment was hired in equipment. So it was very awkward. Very awkward. But that wasn't my own equipment, so it's a bit of a different feeling.
Okay. And then you can talk about any specifics. Like, is it
No, so no, I can actually, because so that was more like it was like a really elaborate setup, like over 2 months. So so every someone, whoever these people are, these criminals, they set up a company, like a fake company, all looking legit, blah blah blah, everything like this, and so they've inquired like any other client would. Everything looked legit. They inquired to come and like direct and be like cinematographer for an advert for, and they've had everything. They've had a brief. They've had everything all looked legit, and I'm saying, they wanted it to be shot in a certain type of equipment with certain type of lenses, which were quite high end, made by like these RE ultra prime lenses, which are really, really super high end, very expensive. And essentially what happened is so there was all this communication and like a project probably building up over 2 months. And when it's come to the day, and they've paid the deposits for the hire of the gear and everything like this and blah, blah, blah. So I've hired the gear. I've had to get out production insurance for it. And when the day's come, we've got it hired. They had hired a car to take us round for the whole day, which isn't massively out of the ordinary. Some clients do it. It's a lot more rare, because I can drive to a set. I can do that. But sometimes we do get clients that will say, we'll just organize a driver for the day to take you round to the locations, pick up the gear, blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't anything majorly out of the ordinary, but it is a bit more rare for clients to do that. So they've picked me up. We've picked up the gear, blah, 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 everything. And everything's running a little bit late. So I've met the producer, but the fake producer who was meant to be the producer. So I've met the producer, and we've kind of everything's running a little bit late. So we've stopped at a cafe to wait for the rest of the crew to meet there. Then we'll go off to the studio, because the studio was slightly outside of London.
Okay.
So we've met, and we sat down, started having breakfast. And so at this time I left the lenses in the car, the car that was taking us around, which was a taxi, which they've hired. And we're having breakfast, we've left, and the producer who I'm with has just said, she's got to pop out and make a phone call. She's popped out. About 5 minutes have gone by. Something's told me just 5 minutes is way too long to make this phone call. Got up, looked out the window, can't see the car. Walked out onto the street, can't see the car. Walking up and down the road, can't see the car. Come back into the cafe, can't see anybody. Calling the people, phones off, everything. Thinking, what the hell's going on? Walking up and down the street, walking back in. Can't find any trace of anything. And so essentially that was it. They'd taken this gear and enough. So and they timed it right as well. It was in about quarter of the way through December. And if coming up to Christmas time, everything slows down. All these bits. So they timed it right. It must have been it's about quarter of the way in mid-December. So like everything about it they did really well. Like even the cafe where we stopped, all the CCTV in the area when the police checked it out, it was all what they call the CCTV cameras are owned by I've forgotten what it's called, but like the organization that monitors all the traffic. So for like the transport organization. So these cameras don't record, they just live monitor for the sort of railways and the traffic people to be able to monitor traffic. So there was no actual recordings of anything when the police checked this out. All the like private CCTV by shop owners, none of it pointed onto this part where their car parked up. And then the police themselves, because of it was over Christmas time, everything happened really slow. It took the police like about 3 weeks to actually properly respond and start to investigate and everything. And then when going through it and going through all the details with the police, they were pretty much like all the sort of evidence you've got it doesn't actually, it's like in my head, I might know that this links with this, but they're saying, but this can't actually be proved. Like the link is actually missing. So this wouldn't even make, like, this is, what's that?
Oh, there was like a glitch or something.
Okay, it's good. So they were saying like
the suspense has got me right now. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So they were saying like, so all the sort of evidence, like the bank sort of transactions and blah, blah, blah. They're saying like when they were, and I actually had to do a lot of work on my side. So I'm saying to the police, I'm offering all these suggestions and the police come back to you and say, well, can you ask your bank to do this, this and this? And the way, because you have like different boroughs monitor different things, I'm suggesting, well, can't we, track the car because we came down the motorway, which definitely monitors. So they're saying, well, it's nowhere near as easy as that. The police are explaining to. They're saying because that's monitored by a completely different sort of organization. The police don't directly sort of own that, and a different borough owns this, and blah blah blah.
Wow.
And it was just like, and what the police were saying, they were saying, and because of like the evidence they've got, there's not really any leads.
Okay.
They were like, and the things they have, they were saying that this wouldn't even make it to court. A judge wouldn't let this get to court because there's no actual real evidence for anything. So they were just like, what they said is they said there was no violence put on you, so technically it's not a robbery.
Right.
So they were saying this is like somewhere in between like a fraud / deception sort of thing. And they were saying there's no leads, and they were saying like there's just no reason for the police to pursue it.
Oh, wow.
So that was, and actually when I spoke to the insurance companies, so I had to have because the gear was so much value, it had to get production insurance for it. The insurers actually said to me that this happens a lot. Like they're saying this isn't like, there needs to be a lot more awareness about this. And they were saying that I'm one of the more lucky people in the sense that it was fraud. They were saying what usually does happen often is they go for a bit sort of lower cost and they'll literally book everything like that. And when you turn up to the place we're supposed to be filming, they usually just beat the person up, take all the gear and go. They were saying that happens common a lot. They were saying that this happens a lot in the film industry. It's a big rise of crime. They're saying they say it's very rare that they do find gear, but when they have, the gear is out the country the same night. It will end up they can't take it to Europe where a lot of these things are still monitored. Like if you're trying to sell, say, a lens that costs £25,000 to someone, you can't just go and sell that to someone like another production company. They'll want to know, well, where have you got this from? So they say these lenses will usually end up in the African film scene or some parts of the Asian film scene. And they're saying, but it's out the country the same night. They're saying that's what happens.
Wow.
And and it's pretty much gone. So yeah, it was and I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know this was a popular crime, but it is.
Well,
It's
I mean, I assume that it's. I mean, these kinds of scams I think are pretty common, but I guess
yeah,
it's just the format and the items
yeah,
change, and
yeah,
in order to make the scheme work, you just have to make certain adjustments and
yeah,
no, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, we in Philadelphia we had a little thing going where people's home studios were getting broken into, and but it
Okay,
was more like strong arming, like they just
yeah,
come into, and just hold everybody hostage while they take
okay,
everything and stuff like that. So
okay. That
uh
yeah, yeah. That's scary.
yeah, so I'm glad this didn't well, I'm glad you're safe and that nothing.
Yeah, that's the thing because it's it's weird. Like I left the lenses in the taxi, and it's like even as I was crossing the road, something in the back of my mind was saying it's like it was telling me like really you should take the lenses with you, but at
Mhm,
the same time something was saying just keep walking. It was
mhm,
weird, and then I think if I had taken because the lenses were the most valuable because it was a set of these RE Ultra Primes, which was about £80,000 worth of lenses.
wow,
It was like a set of 5 lenses that brand new. I think they cost £25,000 each.
wow,
Uh, but it was like I think when the insurers valued it, it was like £80,000 worth because they account for depreciation. So it was like £80,000 worth.
wow.
I think like if I had taken that with me, then they probably would have come in and put some violence on me.
Yeah,
And people get killed over £200. Imagine what someone will do for £80,000.
yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's I guess it is very fortunate that didn't have any violence put on me.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe your intuition, instead of
yeah,
told you just leave the cameras there, and
yeah,
so yeah. Wow,
yeah.
that's scary. I
It's
mean, I've heard of I've heard of different kinds of, like the more little scams with
yeah.
I know about this, and I actually had I think I had someone in my family, this is what she did for a living, like just just various kinds of scams and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and
yeah,
but yeah, I'm happy you're all right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was fine. It's a weird feeling after, It was like it was sort of it was traumatic, like as in the sense of especially through like the insurance because the sort of the loss adjusters they try to pinpoint where the blame's at.
Mm-hmm.
They ask you these all sorts of questions. They ask you every detail about what happened, like way more than the police do.
Mm-hmm.
Like the police kind of looked at it, said, "There's no leads.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
this ain't going nowhere."
Yeah. Where was Luther? Where? How
Like
come?
yeah,
Where?
that's that's what I needed. That's
You
what I
need
needed. Idris
Luther
Elba.
and Alice.
Yeah, that's what I needed. I needed Idris Elba.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.